Welcome in to Seahawks Today, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. Coming up on today's show, we have the latest Seattle Seahawks news and rumors. We're talking about Bobby Wagner, Jamal Adams. We're also going to touch on Jalen Carter as well. All of that coming up in just a few moments from right now. Before we do, folks, we are getting so close to 36,000 subscribers here on the channel. But we need your help to get there. For the latest happenings on your favorite team, subscribe to the channel now. All this week, we are battling with our Niners channel and our Cowboys channel to see who can gain the most subs. And I got to tell you, we're doing pretty good. But we got to keep pace with the rest of the channels. So not only do you want to subscribe to be a part of what we're doing talking about the Seahawks, but we want to take it to the other channels as well. So go ahead and subscribe today, and we'll get started with the show. Drafting Jalen Carter. According to a new report from NBC Sports' Peter King, the Seahawks could be the one team that stands in the way of Jalen Carter falling outside of the top 10. That the other teams, for the most part, seem to kind of have written off Jalen Carter of sorts. But the Seahawks are still very, very interested in taking him at that number 5 spot. So here's more from Peter King. I think I wouldn't be surprised unless Seattle takes him at 5 if Jalen Carter drops out of the top 10. I view Seattle as a team that isn't as scared off by players with character concerns as some other teams are. How about that? I love the idea of drafting Jalen Carter. I know that there's been some things that have risen up here within the last, several weeks, and we'll catch you up on all of those in case you need a recap. We'll get to that here in just a second. But before we do, our pinned comment today, you might get an ad break. If so, take advantage of it. Should the Seahawks draft Jalen Carter with the number 5 pick? Do you like this idea? Or are you opposed to this idea? Why for yes and for no? Tell me in the comments section. Should the Seahawks draft Jalen Carter or not with that number 5 pick? Is he too much of a risk? Do you like the idea of bringing Jalen Carter or not? Let me know. Why for yes and for no? Tell me in the comment section below. A Tribe Called Quest once said, scared money don't make none. Can't be scared, right? And I look at this Seattle Seahawks situation. Jalen Carter is exactly the player that you would want if you're the Seattle Seahawks. If you are looking at what you need and your desires and who is the best player in this draft, it is Jalen Carter. It is a match made in heaven, right? This is on the surface level, what the Seahawks are exactly looking for is Jalen Carter. And I know that you've had these things pile up. I get it, that he's being investigated for a potential role in a January 15th car wreck. He had an underwhelming performance at his Georgia Football Pro Day. All of those things are absolutely true. We're not burying the bush here or, dancing with the facts. They are what they are. But the truth of the matter is that Jalen Carter, the tape is still there, that he was incredible at Georgia. The measurables are still there. Those things have not changed. Is he going through a tough stretch? What has gone through the last couple of weeks? Sure. But if he can prove that football's on his mind, that he's going to work through this, then this, I think, still makes sense for Seattle to go with at 5. Now, ESPN just released a full mock draft for the Seahawks for all 10 picks, and Jordan Reed put this together, a full mock draft, and these were the picks for Seattle according to Jordan Reed. Jalen Carter at 5, just like what we saw from Peter King there. Lucas Van Ness with the other first-round pick, the edge rusher out of Iowa there, so all defense with those first 2 picks. Then in the second round, the Seahawks find help at the center position with John Michael Schmitz from Minnesota, who some people believe is the best center in this draft. Then they go with Jack Campbell, the star linebacker out of Iowa, filling another need at the linebacker spot. And with not knowing when we're going to see Jordan Brooks return, maybe Campbell starts right away for Seattle potentially. Third round, they go corner, and they go out of Stanford. The first of 2 Stanford players they draft, Kelly there with that pick. Kai Blue Kelly, that is. Fourth round, they go with Washington. That would be Parker Washington, the wide receiver from Penn State. Fifth round is when we see the Seahawks go quarterback, and that's where Tanner McKee gets picked up from Stanford in the fifth round. The second fifth-round pick for the Seahawks, they go with Colby Wooden, the defensive lineman from Auburn. Sixth round, running back is the selection there with Laburn from Marshall, and then the final pick of the draft from Florida A&M, the Seahawks go with Isaiah Land, the edge rusher from Florida A&M there. So I'll say, looking at this mock draft, if you're Seattle, if that's the draft you end up with, I don't think you're complaining about that. To me, that's a mock draft that is very thorough, that is well thought out there. I like that mock draft for Seattle potentially. To me, that could make a lot of sense if things work out that way, for that being their 10 picks. More Seahawks news to get to here in just a second. Before we do, with the draft just around the corner, that means draft hats are on sale now, and you can get yours today. We have, whether it's the baseball cap or the flat bill, either version we have for you on sale now. These are the same hats that the rookies are going to be wearing on draft night. So why don't you go ahead and get yours now before the draft so you can be ahead of the curve. When you go to your draft party and everyone's like, man, where'd you get this hat? Well, you can say, yeah, I got it from Chat Sports. Chat Sports is selling these. Chatsports.com/Seahawks draft. Get yours today. You can be wearing the same exact hats the pros are wearing, be looking great at the same time. Chatsports.com/Seahawks draft. Jamal Adams, his future has been in question with the Seattle Seahawks for a little while now, about what Seattle will do with him, if he will stay with this franchise or if they will ultimately move on from him with his recent injury history, and also with bringing in Julian Love and bringing back Ryan Neal. Is there a spot for Jamal Adams in 2023? Well, according to Pete Carroll, he was talking at the NFL's annual meetings in Phoenix this week, and he said that there are no plans to move on from Jamal Adams. They're not looking to cut him. They're not looking to trade him. Jamal Adams will be back, and they have a certain idea in mind to be able to play all of these guys. Here's more from Pete Carroll, saying, we've sent our guys to see him about 10 days ago, and he's coming in the next couple of weeks too, so we're keeping track. Sounds like he's doing great. He's pushing it. He's going to try to bust whatever projections that would keep him from being ready for the start of the season. He's looking to get that done. We're counting on it, hoping it. I know there's some conversation that we did with Julian, but does that some impact on Jamal or Quandre? It doesn't. We have a clear thought of what we're going to do with our guys and how we want to play them, and we feel fortunate to have all of our guys. And for Pete Carroll, that makes a lot of sense. There's been discussions with Jamal Adams, with his future, with the organization of, could he be in a nickelback role of some sorts? Could we see him, him and Ryan Neal and then Julian Love all be on the same field together, along with Quandre Diggs, a two-package set, 2 or 3 safeties on the field at the same time. All of that is certainly possible for this Seahawks team, that they have multiple options. Not to mention, when are they going to see Jamal Adams? Until he actually shows up, they have to be prepared otherwise. And think about the money situation. Don't forget about this, folks. It never made financial sense for the Seahawks to move on from Jamal Adams. Of what you would have had to pay him and what he counted against the cap, whether you believe Jamal Adams was going to be healthy or not, you might as well just go ahead and keep him around and give him one more last shot in playing him this next year, because of the way the money was shaped. It just didn't make sense. It would cost you so much to move on from him that you were going to lose so much anyway. So I'm not surprised that Seattle's going to bring back Jamal Adams. This, to me, it never made sense to move on from him, just where the financials at. Got to make your money work for you, as Dave Ramsey says. Should the Seahawks keep Jamal Adams? What do you think? Type K for keep, type M for move on. Should the Seahawks keep Jamal Adams or not? I think you have to keep him. I agree with Pete Carroll. You find a way to make it work. I think the ideal scenario is to play him at the linebacker spot. What do you think? Tell me in the comment section. K for keep, M for move on. Let me know. So we got some more details that have emerged on Bobby Wagner's return to the Seattle Seahawks. And what the situation looks like, how all of this came together, and it's pretty fascinating. Peter King, in the same article that he was talking about Jalen Carter that we showed you earlier in the show, he also talked about this Bobby Wagner situation, and pretty fascinating what Pete had to say here. Too often, long and valued relationships get thrown in the garbage because the business of football interferes. And Wagner was smart enough to understand the sport and the business to not burn those bridges. And it's a tribute to Seattle GM John Schneider for how he handled Wagner since drafting him in the second round of the 2012 draft. The mutual respect drips from this return. Let it be a model for other great players and franchises. Bobby Wagner then talked to the Seattle Times about why he made his return and why he's coming back to the Seattle Seahawks. And he said, I've made a lot of money over my career, and so I think I'm at the point where I just want to go where I'm happy, and so I really am just pulling for this to work out. It's a big win for the Seahawks, okay? We've told you this before. PFF, all the football nerds out there, say that Bobby is still one of the best linebackers in football. You got him at $7 million. You got him to take a discount, and a guy that wants to be there, that loves the Seahawks, loves this organization and this fan base. All of it, I'm telling you, all of it just makes sense for all parties involved. And here's another thing. Here's another thing I would point to as we're kind of wrapping up today's show that I want you Seahawk fans to think about here. The deal for Geno. Bring in Draymond Jones. Bring in Bobby Wagner back. You know what this tells me about your Seattle Seahawks? Last offseason, we were talking about the rebuild, right? In 2023, the Seahawks are all in on competing. They are all in on this year and doing as well as they can and trying to go as far as they can this year. They are all in on this season. And that's what you love to see. This team is not holding back. It's not a rebuild year coming up. This is about contending. And this is about trying to compete to be one of the best teams in the NFC. Seahawks are all about that. And they're not done. They've made these free agency moves, and they got 10 more draft picks to go. Get fired up, Seahawks fans. Here's what I want you to do as we end today's show. I want you to spam 54 in the comments for Bobby Wagner. Get on your feet. Get excited. He's back, one of the best linebackers in football, and this Seahawks team is here to compete. Okay? It's going to be a fun year. Spam 54 in the comments. Hit me up on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Tyler Jones Live, talking about your Seattle Seahawks there, and I'll see you next time right here on Seahawks Today.